Are annuities good or bad for retirees? That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the pros of annuities. We're going to talk about the cons of annuities, who it may be right for, who it's not right for, and we're going to make sure you can get as much education on this topic as possible. So when it comes to annuities, I want to preface it by saying that there's no perfect investment. So if anyone's ever trying to tell you, hey, you've got to do this investment, it's going to guarantee you a 50% rate of return, or this is the only option, you probably want to run away, right? Because there's no perfect investment. And so that's what we're going to talk about with an annuity is it could be good, but maybe not everything into an annuity, right? Probably not everything, definitely not everything is what I advise. But that's, just to understand that this can be a part of your plan, but it shouldn't be everything. It's not a perfect investment. So when it comes to deciding if this is the right vehicle for you, it comes down to what are your objectives? What are you trying to solve here? For example, I'm younger. I'm going to keep working for many years. I don't have any annuities. Why? Because I don't want to worry about the negatives of having an annuity at this point. I want to get as much growth potential as I can. If I have an annuity, I'm not going to get as much growth potential as what I could in the stock market over the long term as what I would expect. And so if you get, annuities typically perform at maybe half of what the market does. If the market goes up 10%, you may only get 5%. If the market goes up 20, you may only get 10. If the market goes down negative 20, you may get 0. It's the hypothetical idea of how an annuity works compared to the stock market. Okay, so there's pros of it. If the market's down, you're 0. If it's up, you're not up as much. That's the trade-off there, right? So you've got to trade off, the loss of potential for the peace of mind of you're not going to lose anything. So when it comes to looking at doing an annuity, I want to follow the acronym of a TIP. So the T, which stands for tying up your money. So when you do an annuity, you have to tie up your money for a portion of time. If you're okay doing that, then this is not a problem. But that's why I want to make it, as I mentioned earlier, we don't want to put everything into an annuity because of that T, because we're tying up our money. The other thing to understand is when you're looking for an annuity is how long is that surrender schedule? How long do you have to tie up your money? If it's 10 plus years, you want to be extra careful there, right? Because you're locking yourself into a contract that you're not going to be able to change, or if you do, you're going to have to pay hefty amounts of surrender penalties. So you got to understand what that looks like for you. The I stands for income. So if you're looking for income that's guaranteed, that's predictable, that's protected, then typically an annuity is a good place to look at getting that type of income so you don't have to worry about the market being down in those scenarios. And then the P, which stands for protection. So if you don't want to lose money in the market, then an annuity could be a good place for you to look because you have that principal protection that the insurance company is going to provide you. So those are the things to look out for to see if this is a good opportunity for you or not. A case right now where we see annuities actually being beneficial is to replace bonds. So bonds right now are not the most attractive vehicle. As you can see, they're down quite a bit right now. And over the last 15 years, they really haven't done much at all. And so with some people, they don't want to invest in the bond market where they can still have a chance of loss, or they're still paying their investment manager a fee to manage that. They'd rather do an annuity where there could potentially be no fee, principal protection, but still getting the same amount of growth that a bond would likely get over time, but probably even more. So there's studies out there that show that annuities have performed better than bonds over time with how they're structured. So those are scenarios where this could make sense. And then also, like I mentioned, unlike me, if you're in retirement, you may want that sense of protection. You may want that peace of mind. You're at the top of the mountain. You may have done everything you need to. Now you need to get down the mountain. You're not worried about building the biggest barns anymore. You're just worried about getting across the finish line. So it's different than the accumulation phase. You're in a distribution phase, which is where annuities become more useful there. The other thing I always want people to be aware of when it comes to annuities is trust the person you're working with, because there's a lot of insurance salespeople out there that all they do is offer insurance products. And so if that's the case, there's a big conflict of interest there. They're not going to tell you to do something different if they're not getting paid for it. And so you need to be aware of who are you working with here. And again, are they trying to push this product, or are they trying to build it within your financial plan to see how it makes sense for you? And so that's the key point there too. And you also want to work with someone who, it's not all or nothing, right? If you do an annuity with us, you have to do an annuity to work with us. Well, that's not how building a financial plan works. There's many ways to make it work. And so you need to build a plan that you're comfortable and confident in. So that's something that we do here. So even if we recommend that an annuity is a great fit for a client, if they don't want to do an annuity, then we don't have to. We go to plan B and we see how can we build a plan to their liking to what they're wanting to do. So understand that that's a big component of this as well. And as I mentioned earlier, you don't want to put all your money into an annuity. Insurance companies won't even allow you to do too much to an annuity. I actually had someone who came in with the majority of their money in annuity, and there's nothing we could do for them. They had that money locked up. It wasn't the best investment for them, but I didn't want to have them pay a hefty surrender penalty to get out of it. Now, there's some scenarios where I have recommended clients to get out of a bad annuity and pay that surrender fee because of the opportunities on the other side and because of the loss that they could have had in keeping it there even a few more years. So you've got to understand how that works in your situation as well. And now I want to talk to you a little bit about, the good and bad types of annuities, right? So when it comes to annuities, some can have a long surrender schedule, like I mentioned, and some can have a shorter surrender schedule. We typically advise people to look at shorter surrender schedules. You can typically get about the same rates with a shorter surrender schedule while giving you more flexibility and to change contracts or to do a different type of investment once that surrender is over. So I like that aspect of doing financial planning to have more flexibility. The other thing to understand is the riders associated with the policy. So annuities typically come in, depending on what type, but there's typically no cost. If you do a fixed annuity, there's typically no cost to a fixed annuity. A fixed annuity is going to give you a guaranteed amount each year ongoing. And so there's typically no fees that are coming out of that. And so if you get a 4% guaranteed fixed rate, then you're going to get 4% that next year. Now, fixed index annuities are based on an index, and you're going to get growth based on the market. Remember, not the entire market, but maybe half of it would be the idea there. In some fixed index annuities, if there's no riders, there's no charges. So if you get 5%, you get 5%. There's nothing else coming out of that number for what you're supposed to get there. And then you have variable annuities. Variable annuities are the most scrutinized annuity in our industry, and it makes sense why. They come at a really high cost. There's a lot of riders for it. It typically is tying your money up for 10 plus years or maybe even your lifetime if you have an income rider on it. And so those can be, and then they're variable, which means they can still lose money, so they're not protected. So we don't typically recommend variable annuities very often. And so you want to be aware of that type of investment. Do your due diligence. It's not that it's bad. You just want to see if that's really the right option for you with a variable annuity. And so when it comes to the riders that I mentioned, if you mention fixed index, fixed annuities, they don't come with any riders. Well, you can add riders on, but you're not required to add the riders. And so if you add riders, then they can become more costly. And so you have to see, is adding the riders the best thing for you? Is that what you should do? And one of the most popular riders is an income rider. And so an income rider means that you're going to get a guaranteed income payment for the rest of your life. I really want you to question this, because for an income rider to make sense, you have to live 20 plus years to start getting into the insurance company's pocket. And that's with very little or maybe no growth at all. So you've got to see, is that really what you want to do? Do you really want to tie up your money that long? Or do you want to have more flexibility without the income rider, less of a cost, more opportunity as time goes on? So those are the type of things that you need to be aware of there. And so that pretty much wraps up the pros and cons of the annuities. Reach out to me. I'd be glad to analyze your current annuity or talk about other opportunities out there. But just make sure you do your due diligence, because once you're in it, you don't want to get out of it in a short term, because you'll have to pay a surrender penalty. And so you just really want to see if this is what's going to work within your financial plan. So hopefully that helps.